Hey guys, and welcome to yet another home stream. I'm Will, and we're going to continue on with our big Thanos month. If you've been watching over the course of this, hold on one second. If you've been watching over the course of this last month, you will know that we've been devoting the entire month of June to the big bad baddie of Marvel, Thanos. So Dallas has been painting his Thanos. I've been painting my Thanos. And now it's time to dive into his throne. So we finished Thanos not last week, the week before that, on our back-to-back live stream system. So we have a really awesome alternate Thanos done in a very desaturated color scheme. And now we have to make a throne for this bad boy to be coming down from, so that when he's on the shelf, we can display him. And then, of course, we have that awesome terrain piece for using in the Ultimate Encounter and any other game of Marvel Crisis Protocol that we want to use. So with that said, let's dive right into this. I've done a little bit of prep work today just to make sure that we could get as much done within this hour as possible. So all I've really done is you can see my final Thanos here. So we have kind of a vision of what we're going for on this throne. So I've done a couple of things just to prep this. The first thing that I did is I used the airbrush, which I have in my garage, to just basically block out a lot of the grays on the stone, because it's, of course, a big area. So you can use a big brush if you have one and you don't have an airbrush. That works just as well. But I like to use the airbrush because I have it. So I blocked out all of the grays on the stones, did a little bit of zenith priming and highlighting on those, and then I went back right before this stream and I started blasting the rocks with a heavy wash, a mixture of black and blue washes, just to really bring down the colors, get into the cracks and crevices. And then I hit it with a hair dryer to dry it out really quick, because I was doing all this about 20 minutes before we really started going off and going live. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to start dry brushing this bad boy. So you can already see that we have some really great textures and stuff going on with the stone. I need to make it match my base that's going in here, so I'm going to be using a little bit of that to kind of like play off of. But we're going to try to keep this throne relatively dark so that our Thanos with his saturated colors really pops out. So we're not going to go super bright on this thing, but we are going to bring it up just a little bit and get that rocky texture in and everything like that. So with that said, I'm going to move my Thanos out of here. I'm going to plop this base in just because I find it easier to do this all at once. And we're going to kick things off, and we're just going to start with a dry brush of this graphite. You probably can't see it because the camera has to be so far away because that throne is so big. But this is graphite from scale 75. It's kind of a nice mid-tone gray. And it'll play really well off the dry brush for these colors. So of course I have my big brushes today because I'm going to be doing terrain. So this really would be what I'd use for a base coat brush if I had not used the airbrush on those grays. Just to build in really quick. So with dry brushing, I'm just going to grab some paint. If you're not familiar with the technique, it is a super awesome and fun technique, especially for terrain painting. I'm going to take a clean piece of paper, like paper towel or a napkin or anything you have lying around, and I'm just going to simply like rub basically almost all the paint off of my brush until it starts to get really light, and I just start to get the barest hint of paint off the brush. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I only want this paint to hit the top portions, the raised areas of the rock. This is going to leave those recesses and those shadows really nice and dark, and it's going to add to that kind of stone texture that we really want. Speaking of textures, this is a great time to say that you have, I think, a couple days left to still jump in on our latest monthly painting challenge, which was textures. Do that on Instagram on hashtag painting protocol. Shows your textures, your furs, your leathers, all kinds of good stuff. Been really fun to see what's been coming through, and I'm excited to see all the entries, all the submissions at the end here, so that we can choose our favorites as a staff, as a crew, the studio, and then announce those and show them off. Probably after the American 4th of July holiday. So I guess sometime next week, really. But this is it. So we're just going to dry brush through this bad boy. Start bringing out all of those rocky, stony textures and details. And we're going to do a couple of successive layers of dry brush. just to really like dive it in there. But dry brushing is fun as long as you keep your brush nice and empty on the paint. You can really just dive in there and start mashing stuff in, get all of that stone, and let the sculpt do the work for you. So that's one of the great things about this is there's all that nice stone texture that you can play off of and really just get going in. I might even be able to use my big brush on this, but we're going to stick with this smaller brush. I wish I had one in between. I just currently don't. So this is where we're at. I don't think anyone else has a 4th of July holiday. There are a lot of, holidays celebrating similar things to the 4th, though, across the world. A Bastille Day, you got Cinco de Mayo. Not sure what our Canadian friends celebrate exactly, but I'm sure somebody in the chat can tell me. Just keep this going. Building up, so. Thanos is coming out, I think, next week. Canada Day, there you go. Boosh. As far as LVO and attending, I don't know. We haven't really had those discussions about what we'll be doing next year. We're neck deep in Gen Con prep and kind of finalizing our plans for Gen Con and stuff, because we will be virtual exhibiting at Gen Con, as many other folks from the Asmodee group and others will be doing. So we have some fun stuff planned for you there. I'm sure Josh doesn't want me to talk about any of it yet because it's supposed to be a surprise. But rest assured, we're definitely all in on doing as much as possible while still keeping everybody safe and secure and not sick. That's the last thing we want. So, all right. So you can see how, hopefully, how we're just bringing out those different textures and stuff with the dry brush. Just kind of work through. And it should be a really subtle effect. One of the things with dry brushing is you build it up over time. So it is a slower process. Woo! It jumps out of my hand. Look at that. I don't have a dowel big enough for this bad boy either, so I'm using my fingers, which is, debatable in terms of its effectiveness. Alright, so that's our first layer of dry brushing. We're going to move on to our second layer of dry brushing. I think I'm going to swap out the bigger brush just to see if we can speed this along. Gen Con prep, that's right, yeah. There will be a virtual kind of experience for Gen Con, and we'll be doing stuff for it as well. Decide what I want to do here. I'm just figuring out if I want to go to my next color, if I want to do a bit more. I think I'm going to go to my next color. So I'm going to step it up just one level above. This is going to be using Miskatonic Gray. We're going to switch over to this Big Daddy brush right here. So yeah. Mounted to a primer lid. I know, I could do that. I don't have a free primer lid right now. All 4 of mine have different miniatures on them right now from Marvel Crisis Protocol that I have in the works that I can't show because, they're all secrets, I guess. Alright, so then we're just going to start hitting this in. Get a bit better light. There we go. So now we're cooking with fire because we're using the big brush. Just being sloppy with it. Hopefully that's showing up as to how you can see all those ridges and those cracks and crevices and all that stuff is really just getting picked out really nice and well from that dry brush. And then what we may do is we'll go back and do a little bit of a wash to tie everything back together, bring things down depending on how bright we go, or we might just leave it. The cool thing about doing natural stuff, obviously, is that, nature isn't really perfect. It's kind of dirty and gritty. We talked about this when we were doing the garbage truck on one of the streams. You can really have fun with kind of just being sloppy and being a bit unnatural. And the more erratic your patterns are to some extent, the more natural that formation is going to look. Whoop, don't do that. That just gets it in the way. So. Dallas does have a mini for me that I've been waiting for I don't even know how long now. 9 months? 10 months maybe? One of my favorite, all-time favorite Marvel characters. I'm like super thrilled to finally get the character and be able to see the miniature of it in full glory and plastic and everything, and honestly paint it. I'm totally cheating. And I will be painting the character way early, painting it quick. Alright, so we're getting some really nice textures going on here. Do a little bit more on this dry brush layer. And then I think we'll step it up one more layer. Just get that really nice. So you can see how we're getting all that really nice kind of texture going on, and it's taking really no time at all because I was smart and stopped being stubborn and moved to my fatter brush. And this is, you know, the great things about these brushes are you can get like kids craft brushes for dry brushing, because dry brushing is brutal on real brushes. But these things hold up like champs. They're just perfectly made for it, with everything going on. But yeah, Thanos is out next week, I believe, like pretty much everywhere as far as I know. So hopefully you guys are all excited to finally get your hands on the Mad Titan and see his awesome ultimate encounter. Put the throne on the table, have him traumatize all of your heroes and all that. His ultimate encounter was a blast to work on. We had a lot of fun kind of working through it. It started honestly as a 3-stage kind of mission where you'd move through these different phases. And what we realized pretty quick early on was that like that was causing a lot of confusion and consternation because it wasn't consistent, you know. So like you kind of had to learn 3 different rules, and it was causing some problems. So what we actually decided to do is we took the 3 phases and we basically just kind of simplified them a little bit and mashed them into one consistent kind of mission outline, and it became really cool. So I can probably spoil a little bit about like what's going on in that. Josh can't stop me, he's not here. I don't even know if he's in the chat. But the kind of the idea behind it is that Thanos has collected all 6 of the Infinity Stones, and he's about to, or gems if you will, and he's about to, you know, make his big play and do the snap. And so the heroes, using kind of a derivatives Tony Stark tech off of the Ultimate Nullifier, have determined a way to kind of sap some of the cosmic energy from Thanos in order to make him vulnerable. So the Crisis team's only like goal is that they have to charge up the beam or the weapon, the Nullifier ray, and then they have to target Thanos with it to start to sap some of his power. And then the more times you can hit him with the beam, you know, the weaker he becomes, so that you can damage him. But you only win by KOing Thanos before he completes his goals. And then of course Thanos runs around and he destroys the generators and stuff, so you have to go fix them and all that. It's a really fun kind of cat and mouse thing where the Thanos player has a couple of different options, and the hero players are really like forced to plan around things because they have to charge the beam and they have to protect the beam generators and all of this stuff. And it is the first ultimate encounter that you guys will see that includes the minion rule in full effect. So when Thanos flips to his injured side in the ultimate encounter, he gets to call in some Black Order minions, or whichever minions you decide to play with in the encounter. So he gets some help And of course they benefit from some crazy rules and stuff too. So really fun, just a really fun scenario. Super blast to play, definitely feels very thematic, and of course you add in the fact that no, you don't get the whole, not the whole Black Order. That'd be crazy. I'm going to use this Nakar now, and I'm just going to do this as like kind of my final dry brush layer. But yeah, and then the other fun thing was kind of like imagining, okay, once you have all 6 Infinity Stones in the gauntlet, obviously their effects are way more powerful than they are individually. And Thanos' mastery over them, of course, is at its peak. So we got to do some really, really wild stuff with each gem, and how he uses those gems and stuff to really define his turn is super fun. Like, I think my favorite one, and I'll spoil it, is the ultimate power gem. When Thanos chooses to use the ultimate power gem, he immediately gains 10 power, and his maximum power cap goes from 10 to 15. So it's like a great way for Thanos to just be like, all right, let's do this. And then he can do all the things with his massive power set. But, of course, if you're using the power gem, because you only get to use one per activation, you're not using some of the other gems. And, I mean, each gem is just as, like, crazy and awesome as the next. And it makes playing Thanos feel so much like, 1, you have control of the Infinity Gauntlet, and 2, you get so many different choices and options on how to progress during your turn because of that it's really cool. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with where we are at the stone. I think we can call this pretty good. Alright. Thanos will come with all 6 standard gem cards for those asking in the chat as well. Yep. Since he can take any of the 6, we wanted to make sure that he had all 6 available to him, as it's a really big part of his character design and part of the fun and the flavor of playing with him in normal games as well as the Ultimate Encounter. So you get all 6 of the Ultimate Gems, which of course you can only use in the Ultimate Encounter. And then you get all 6 of the regular ones as well. Alright, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think we got some really nice stone texture going on, so hopefully this kind of, for anyone who was unfamiliar with dry brushing or is new to it, this is kind of a really great illustration of what dry brushing excels at, which is heavily textured areas and just, especially rock and stone. It really just like pops it right out. Oh yeah, the Ultimate Soul Gem, Dallas. That one's nuts. I think I probably should have picked that as my favorite, just from the one instance where I made Josh almost weep. It was the best. It was probably the most trolly moment I've ever had in the game. See, and then this is the danger of dry brushing, is that it's so fun. You can just keep doing it, and every time you do another coat, you pick out even more and more detail, more and more layers. It just drives everything right up in such a wild way. Fantastic. Okay, we're gonna call that good. So there's our throne happening right now. So we're very happy with that. Looking good there. So next up, we're gonna hit the metals. And we're going to be doing the dark metallic that I did on the base. Clean up this dry brush. Pretty good as I talk about this. So for our metallics on the base, we're going to move to a nice dark steel. We're going to be using Scale 75's black metal, which is really classic, nice and dark. You know, dry brushing will work over just about anything because, of course, any any miniature is going to have like slight imperfections on its surface that you won't be able to see with the eye, but that of course with a really good dry brush you'll be able to pick out. You can use dry brushing to just hit edges on any kind of like sharp surface. So you can do that, especially on steepling if you wanted to. That could be a way to work. Just trying to decide which brush. I'm going to use my normal brush. I think I need a bit of control for this. So, alright, here we go. So we're just going to start going in here. We're just going to start laying down these metallics. Avoiding our stones as best we can, because it can be a little tricky to try to fix effects. I think for this, pop that out. We're just going to go like this. I'll paint that separate. Now that our stones match, I can make the metals match really easily. So. You definitely can't use two of the same gems in your roster. There is only one, although, you know, by the rule of the multiverse, it might be that you and your opponent both take the same gem, for sure. Just like you and your opponent might both take Captain America or something like that. Maybe one's a fake, who knows? Yeah, the Ultimate Encounter is really fun. It has the biggest token for scenario that I think we've done to date. In fact, I know it does. It's an amazing token. And it is for the nullifier beam gun thing. I forget exactly what we called it. The nullifier ray, maybe? But it's huge. As befits a weapon capable of draining some of Thanos' power. Then, of course, one of the really fun things is if Thanos doesn't have any tokens on him from the nullifier weapon that the heroes are using to try to drain his power, he is invincible. So you cannot damage him at all until you actually start putting tokens on him. And he does have ways to get rid of the tokens. So it's kind of a constant game of, okay, well, we have to make sure that, you know, we can actually damage him. And of course he's chasing the crisis teams around, like getting really angry, beating them up, all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. So we're just going to hit the throne. Get all these metal parts done. There's a lot of ways to approach the throne in terms of what is stone, what is not. And specifically when I talk about the throne, I mean the chair itself. So you'll see like I did the chair as stone because it had nice stone texture. And then I've got areas of stone, but we've also got areas of metal. So I kind of imagine like a lot of that stone is basically kind of like linoleum tile, right? It's just a facing. So the whole chair is probably metal, and then you have these little insets where they've put decorative stone, as it were, rather than having the chair carved out of pure stone and then have metal accents, which is something that you absolutely could do if that was kind of your vision for what you see with the throne. And I think this is one of the fun things about this terrain piece, is there's a lot of room for interpretation on what you want to see from it. I need more paint, so of course I'm throwing out the amount of paint that I would if I was painting a normal miniature and not a giant throne. A wild Samoan has appeared. Everybody's hanging out with us today. Everybody's with us today. So watch, this really exciting base coating going on. We talk about Thanos. seen a few people ask online and stuff like why Thanos can't take all of the gems in a standard game of Crisis Protocol, and kind of talked about this before in another stream, but we did start there. We started with Thanos being able to take all 6 of the gems, and we figured it out to where he was 17 threat in his own right if he had all the gems. So he was kind of a squad into himself, and it was fun, and mechanically it worked. But the problem we ran into is it still had to be fairly balanced against 17 points. And when we thought about, what the Infinity Gauntlet meant and Thanos with all the gems meant to the universe and the level of threat that he was, we kind of realized pretty early on, after playing through several games with it and iterating and stuff, that we weren't quite getting we weren't capturing the narrative, we weren't capturing the feel that we really wanted. We just weren't doing him justice, And so we kind of stepped back and reevaluated, and we said, okay, well, we know we're going to have the ultimate encounter where we can just go crazy. We can really do Thanos and all the gems right. And kudos to Will Pagani, our lead developer, who had a huge hand in kind of developing and mastering the ultimate encounter system in general, and then of course the Thanos one. He also was the guy who came up with the original designs for Thanos, because he's a big fan of like the big bad monster characters in games, and so it was a great kind of opportunity to play to his strengths and let him have some fun with the big bad monster character of Marvel Crisis Protocol at the time. And it's just been really fun. It was really fun to watch, really fun to play. And I think where we wound up on Thanos being able to take 2 gems instead of the normal 1, and of course having access to all of them and being able to use their powers for free, still makes him really viable and exciting in the base game with taking gems, but keeps him balanced in a way that feels enjoyable and doesn't strip him of that awesome presence that he has in the comics when he has all those gems. So I always like to think of like Thanos on the hunt, Alright, so these sides is metal. Because again, I'm kind of just assuming that the stone that we can see on the front is more of a decorative like plating, rather than actually having all of this stuff be carved out of stone. So I'm using it more like an edge. Full thing. Whoop! I should bring that down so everybody can see what we're doing. As exciting as it is to just stare at the back of a throne, probably want to be able to see the brush. Uh-oh. Oh, the leadership changing? We went through so many Black Order leaderships to try to find something that felt right and was balanced and good and all that stuff. So the leadership kind of shifting was a case of, we really liked the idea that Thanos and the leadership of the Black Order would grant VPs for knocking out enemy characters. But what we found in testing was that was problematic over the course of a full game. And so in order to keep that idea, but still make it, feel balanced and work and all that in a normal game, and not have it kind of completely change the way players approach the game and how the Black Order was already really effective at dealing damage. That was always their niche from the time I started designing the original Black Order characters that weren't Thanos. Was that the Black Order was going to be an affiliation that was all about KOing, about dealing damage. They were the bruisers, the true bruisers of Crisis Protocol. which you know fits in the comics. They're not really there necessarily to simply accomplish the mission and get out. They're very much the instrument of terror and subjugation that Thanos uses against his enemies. So by and large, if they're going to complete a mission, they're going to do it in the most, you know, scary, like, noticeable way possible. They're not sneaking in. They're going to murder everything on their way to the objective and murder everything on their way out. So the leadership changing was kind of our nod to, or our compromise on. We were having problems with the leadership staying that way throughout a whole game. And I'm fairly positive it was Pagani and maybe a couple of the testers at the time that they were talking about this, and they hit upon the idea that, you know, the mentality of Thanos and his forces would change based on the current state of, like, the Mad Titan and where he was. So he kind of moves from this domineering, you know, confident, we're just going to take everybody out, to we have to win at all costs. Thanos is nothing if not a character driven by a singular purpose, right? And so that taking damage for rerolls on the injured side became a real indicative idea of that Thanos-like personality trait. And that now victory is all that matters, so we're going to do anything we can to achieve it, even at the cost of, you know, our own health and safety and well-being. So that's kind of where that shift came from, the idea of the differences, because again, we really wanted that healthy leadership to stay where it was. We wanted to show that and make that part of the Black Order's DNA. But we had to make sure that was balanced. Yeah, we are certainly not done with the Black Order, as many people have pointed out. We do have 2 more characters who need to be appearing in the game at some point. I agree. There's a lot of really awesome potential for both Supergiant and Black Swan. Although I'll admit a personal bias. I think Black Swan is much cooler than Supergiant. Personally, it's just my opinion. I loved the introduction of Black Swan and kind of how she fit into the Order and what she brought to it, and the fact that she's kind of just like an evil, you know, an evil caped crusader type, to me was really cool. So hopefully, you know, we can't speak on new releases, but I can definitely say, like we've said a lot of times, there's a lot of great characters, and we want to get to all of them eventually. So, all right, so got our metals going on pretty well, so we can see how that's going. Nice and dark, building them out, everything on pretty nice. 90s version of Gauntleted Nebula. You know, maybe go back to the wild hairstyle of Nebula when she had hair. A little less cyborg, a little more like normal blue alien. Why not? I mean, we got a lot of characters left. You know, if you just start talking about the original Infinity Gauntlet run, that we can kind of explore and have fun with. Really, we've only barely scratched the cosmic surface, honestly. It comes to all those cosmic characters, you know, we're just getting warmed up. Of course, you could argue that the game in general is just kind of getting warmed up, which is great. A lot of potential. A lot of really awesome potential for us to go. So, really looking forward to showing off some new stuff around the corner as we move out of Thanos month. We're going to be doing, we've got Ant-Man and Wasp, which we've been showing some stuff on. Those guys are very exciting, and they bring a whole new mechanic to the game with their transform rules, which of course is introduced with them, but definitely not limited to just them. So there's going to be some really awesome stuff there. We've got, Punisher and Taskmaster. Taskmaster, one of my favorite villains from Marvel. Another one that I was really excited to get. And one that I had a whole lot of fun tormenting Pagani with. As I was like, he's got to do this in the game. This is what he does. And then Pagani would just look at me and be like, that's ridiculous. I was like, we can make it work. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming still. Many things to show off. Ghost Rider, yet another one of my classic favorites from Marvel. Actually have him, he's on one of my primer caps right now. Because, why not? I had one. Actually, Dallas got me one. So I put him together, and I was like, well, he's together, so I might as well paint him, right? That's true. Goblin really only does need a head change for Hobgoblin. I mean, given that, Hobgoblin just stole all of Osborn's stuff, they aren't too different. And Demo Goblin, that's a whole other story. That's a whole nother story. That's not quite as simple as a head change. I'm noticing that I missed this little spot right here on the stone, but that's okay. I'll go back and fix that later. Alright, so we just gotta get kind of in here. A lot of this stuff will get really covered up once we go in and wash this dark metal, because we're going to wash it down nice to make it match. So slide him in there. You can see how we're getting really close here. So we just need to do a quick wash in that metal, and then we'll do some dry brush highlighting. We'll go back and clean some stuff up and do some black lining, and then I think we'll have ourselves a done throne. We've got so much time here, we might actually be able to make it. I don't know. I don't want to promise anything, but feeling pretty good. Yeah, Maximum Carnage, one of my favorite, if not the favorite, Spider-Man story arcs. Such a great comic. You got a lot of really good characters in there that you can do that we've yet to see. We haven't even touched on Spider-Man and his amazing friends yet. Okay. So we're gonna take. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this Vallejo black glaze, which we've used in the past. And we're gonna create a nice little dark wash for the metallics because I want them to be pretty dark. So with the glaze, you just simply use glaze, and then you use glaze medium. Yeah, Firestorm and Bobby Drake, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I had a VHS of that show when I was growing up, so I had 3 episodes randomly drawn from the series that I think I got for a birthday present or something. One of the episodes, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends had to deal with the Chameleon, which was a classic, as always. And I think another one they fought Dr. Octopus, because, why not, right? Why not? Add a little blue into this. glaze just to give it a little bit of a metallic tinge. I'm going crazy here. Quite as dark as I want it. So I'm just playing around with my mix here. Just trying to get it to the right consistency where I want it. The 90s Spider-Man was great. I mean, that show was pretty awesome in terms of its very comic nature. I mean, they had some pretty wild soap opera-y storylines going on in that show that would span, you know, multiple episodes, and then they'd bring things back, and it was a really, I really thought it was great in terms of mimicking kind of the comics. Sort of similar to the 90s X-Men show, too. That show definitely had a lot of good nods to kind of true comics where, you know, they do things like Morph dies, and then you kind of forget about it, and then like, why did you forget about this? Because now it's important again. You'd be like, oh my gosh! Look at these seeds that maybe they planted or maybe they didn't. Yeah, I think those were great. Well, a lot of the modern Marvel animations have been amazing as well, you know. Ultimate Spider-Man was fantastic. I watched that one with my boys when they were really little. Both the Avengers show, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Avengers, which was like early 2000s, and then even the new one right now that's going on, were fantastic, really great. I liked Earth's Mightiest a little bit more, but not by much. They're both really solid shows, and they really capture that kind of comic book feel. It was a product. They're products of their time. I don't know that you can really go against say anything too terrible about, you know, their content or how they did things, because you gotta remember, I think it was still a very, you know, cartoons were still very different. They were less about, or less influenced by the idea that they were just a viable way to tell a story, and more still about that Saturday morning, like, selling kids toys and cereals and stuff, right? So I think for the time that those came out, they were really kind of breaking some boundaries in terms of what, at least as far as an American animation was about and what it could be. So I give a lot of credit to those, you know, minds behind those Marvel shows and the risks they kind of took in order to mimic that comic book experience. Talk about Silver Surfer. Where's Josh? Josh loves the Silver Surfer. It's all about him. I only remember the Silver Surfer, like, Nintendo game that was ridiculously hard. Well, the other good thing is that Disney Plus pretty much gives you access to, like, all those shows. From the Marvel side of things, anyway. And I guess the Star Wars side, too. So, you know, it's pretty nice to be able to sit down and just rewatch all those classics from childhood. Or, in my case, from, you know, pretty much any time in my life, because I was watching Earth's Mightiest well before I had kids, in which to claim that I was watching it for the kids. Personally, I've always been a huge fan of animation as a storytelling device and a genre, I guess, a genre of entertainment. So, I'd much rather watch an animated series than I would most, you know, real people series, I guess, quote unquote. Live action, there you go. That's the word we want. Alright, so we got our wash on. Our blacks are starting to get nice and dark. We're gonna want to do at least one more, I would say, wash, just to bring this down even further. What I'll probably wind up doing is just doing a glaze over everything, but of course we can't quite do that just yet because we gotta let this one dry first, and then we'll take a little bit. I think we can get a pretty good vision of what's to come and where we're at the future. Let's get in there really quick. Pull that out. Alright, so let's take our Thanos. Plop him in. There we go. Oh no, Thanos, you fell over. Why would you do that? So there we go. So this is basically what we're working with. We can see, you know, we got a little bit of work to do to make the metals match. We just have to do a little bit of dry brushing after that wash dries. We'll probably go back. But I think he pops really nicely against that stone we did. Stop it! You're the worst, Thanos. Because that camera is angled up. And yeah, we got that nice pop off the red that everyone recommended when we were finishing up our Thanos 2 weeks ago. It's a really nice contrast to him, but I think he's going to look really sharp. All these colors going on, so I'm very happy with this. And I think we made some great progress for a little bit under an hour. So, well, I mean, normally, you know, if he's sitting like this, I don't think I have to worry about it as much. But when I start to tilt him like this, woo, that's where we run into problems. And of course, I'll have to finish the other base too. But I think I'll call this a pretty good conclusion to Thanos month. We'll finish up the throne. We'll post some pictures on our Facebook and Instagram and stuff, just so you guys can see where we landed on the final result. But overall, it's been a blast over the month to kind of take a different interpretation of everyone's favorite Mad Titan. Hope you guys are all looking forward to getting your own Thanos here soon, or at least playing against a friend's Thanos. As soon as you guys have the ability to do so, based on your state-specific quarantining and, you know, safety precautions and all of that. But yeah, so there we go. So I would say that we can probably call this one a wrap for today. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. We had a blast. Hope you learned something and had a little bit of exciting, what's the word I'm looking for? Inspiration, as we always want. Maybe learned a technique or two and are looking forward to doing your own Thanos or applying this to anything you've got. Be sure to join Dallas on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time as he dives in. I think he's going to be finishing out his Cosmic Terrain, maybe, that he started on last week. And then, of course, join us next July after next week as we dive into our next batch of really cool stuff that we have for you. I believe all of you CP10 lovers out there are going to be very excited about what's coming next week. We're going to have some fun stuff that you've been waiting for quite a while. So I don't know what Dallas picked yet, but whatever he picked, I'll paint the other thing out of that CP10 box. We'll talk character design and all that good stuff as well. So with that said, you guys stay safe. Be sure to support everyone around you, send out all the good feels, and help out your neighbors and stuff as you can in this time. We're all in this together. I hope you guys had a blast. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.